Okay, very good evening, everyone. I know that at this hour we are having a master class, and that too, I'll be sharing the legislation of Hong Kong. It's a bit boring, I would say, but because I'm talking about legislation, but it's good to know some terminology in order for us to understand the basic concept which or the functionality which we have in our system. So I think that's why I'm here sharing with you the legislation. Talking about the Hong Kong legislation, I'll be just talking about the payroll module, but I wanted to quickly also brush through some of the I would say some of the legislation which we may talk about in details in other classes as well. The first thing which we gonna talk here about is about 418. I think everyone is hearing about 418. And what is this 418? So it means an employee who has been employed continuously by the same employer for 4 weeks or more with at least 18 hours worked in each week is regarded as being employed under a continuous contract. So when Sway will share later, right, she will be talking about the continuous contract and a non-continuous contract worker. And basically, these are the two group of employment status we have in Hong Kong. And in order to be qualified for the continuous contract, this is the 418 rule we have. And no matter if they are full-time or part-time workers who are employed under continuous contracts are always entitled to benefits. Okay, and these benefits include continuous contract based on 418 entitled to the rest days, holiday pay, but they are paid after 3 months of their service. Okay, from the join date. Then paid annual leave, sickness allowance, maternity allowance, paternity allowance, as well as severance and long service payment. But this part is not yet implemented in the system, so we'll be talking through only about the paternity leave side of things. Okay, this is the entitlement which an employee get. Okay, whenever we are talking about the wage calculation, since we're talking about the payroll, right, we will be taking into consideration only the employees whose employment status is continuous contract. They will be eligible for all the items which I'm sharing right now, and subjected to what they will be paid for, like 80%, 20%, depends on some of the configurable items, they will be paid accordingly. Then talking about the Hong Kong 713. So basically, this is also referred as Hong Kong 713 EAO. So many times you will see this term in our system. What is this actually? So it was brought into force on July 13, 2007. So from there, the 713 is derived. Okay. Then moving on to the next slide, which is the non-continuous contract. So not entitled to any of the annual leave, maternity or paternity leave, no holiday pay, annual leave pay, sickness allowance, severance, long service payment, as well as ADW is not calculated. Okay, so ADW is basically the calculation or the payment what we give to a continuous contract employees. Okay, since we're talking about payroll module, definitely we want to talk about payment, and we'll be only discussing about the legislations which are related to payments, right? So after we have already learned some of the basic keywords here, we will be talking about how the wage is calculated. Okay, so how it is calculated is basically the ADW, which is also referred as average daily wage. Okay, under the amendments of the ordinance, the 12 months average wage should be calculated as follows. And the formula for ADW calculation is wage earned in 12 months period, okay, minus total earnings on days with less than full wage. Okay, sometimes it is also regarded days and the disregarded days, which we will be looking in the next slides. and the days within the 12 months period minus the total days with less than full wage. That is actually equal to the 12 months average wage. Okay. So what if when an individual has or an employee has been employed for less than 12 months, then the shorter period will apply. Okay. So that's how we're gonna do. Sorry. So when the individual has been employed for less than 12 months, then the shorter period will apply. So the disregarded days is referred here, okay, which is disregarded period, days in which employee is not paid his wage or his full wage. Okay, so that's what it means, the definition of the total days with less than full wage. Now let's talk about the total earning on days with less than full wage. Okay, so for that, that is okay. Let me first talk about the regarded wage. Okay, so the average daily wage comprises of the regarded wage divided by number of days in 12 months period minus disregarded days. So what is this keyword regarded wage, or what are the components which are added as a regarded wage? Okay, so a regarded wage or the period a consideration is the basic salary. Then if you're paid rest day, so if you're not paid rest day, that will not be included. OT allowances, other allowances in terms of the transport allowance or any other allowances which you have, and the holiday pay and annual leave allowance. Okay, so annual leave is always paid 100% of the average daily wage. So this is the definition of the regarded wage. Then, and let's talk about this disregarded, okay, wage, okay, or the disregarded days. So the disregarded wage period is basically the statutory holiday. So for the first 3 months, when you're not receiving the statutory holiday payment, when you are not given payment for that, is considered as the disregarded days. Number of paid rest day, so basically no pay rest day, I would say, which will affect the basic pay daily rate as well. Then paid sickness leave, which is 80% of the ADW. No pay sickness leave, which can be the no pay. Maternity leave, which is the 80% ADW, and the paternity leave as well. So these are the disregarded days taken into consideration in the formula which I just shared earlier. So, when we talk about the exclusion of days where the employee earned less than the full wage, right? When we talk about this term, where the employee does not receive the full salary, such as due to being on annual leave or sick leave or any other reasons, that is the days which they are not fully paid. Okay, so what are those which contribute to that? One is the holiday pay, which is employed under continuous contract for at least 3 months. Then the daily pay rate, which is 100% of ADW. Then the rest day. So rest day to be paid or not depends on the agreed contract. So sometimes they are paid, sometimes they are not paid, but always at least one day an employee is entitled for the rest day in a week time. Okay, that is also our law, the Hong Kong law states. Okay, and the annual leave pay, which is the daily rate, which is 100% of ADW. Sickness allowance, which is the daily pay rate, which is 4/5 of ADW, which is also 80%. Maternity leave, 4 weeks of maternity leave are paid from 11th and 14th week of the leave, and it is subjected to a cap of 80,000 Hong Kong dollars. Then the paternity allowance is also similar to the maternity allowance, which is 80% of the ADW. Okay, so I have put some example here for understanding how does the average daily wage is calculated, and I'm taking the sickness allowance for 4 sickness days, which is taken in October 2021 as an example. So what is the assumption here is that basically the remuneration is monthly rated, and it is around 15,000 Hong Kong dollars with paid rest day. Okay, so remember they are paid rest days, and 12 months wage earned before the first sickness day was around this, which includes wage for services rendered and payment for leave. Okay, so leave taken in the 12 months period, which is the 71 days of full pay leave, comprises of the 52 rest days. Okay, so we have 52 rest days in the 12 months period, right? And the 12 statutory holidays and the 7 days of annual leave, which we are taking into consideration for the 12 months period here, right? So based on that, I'm showing the formula here. So periods and wage to be disregarded. So no period and some have to be excluded because the employee is not paid less than his full wage for the leave taken in the 12 months period. So number one is that, right? So while you're calculating the sickness allowances on the basis of 12 months average, how do you calculate? So it's 1,800 minus, is there any disregarded days? No, because it has been fully paid, right? For the payment here, and 365 days, which is the total days in the 12 months period, minus the 0 days. So let's talk about the sickness allowance only for the 12 months average wage is basically $493. So 4 days sickness allowance is $493 times 4/5 times 4. Why we are taking into 4 into consideration is because the 4 sickness days is taken. So just now we talked about the disregarded days. So here the 4 days is treated as the disregarded days where the employee will not be paid. So the one which have been paid is the fourth, fifth, and the rest is not paid. So this is how you take out the sickness allowance. Okay. Later, I think Sway will show how it is computed in the system and how it looks like in the system when we talk about the employee payslip. Okay, we are just referring based on the assumption here. How does the calculation of the 4 days sickness allowance is based on the 4/5 of the salary payment we have, right? Now, this is about calculating of the holiday pay for 1st of January 2022. So there's 1 day of holiday pay. So an employee was employed on 1st January 2021. This is our assumption. Remuneration, which is the daily rated as $500 with no pay rest day. And the 12 months wage earned in 2021 total was this, which includes two things. Okay, wage of this for working of 301 days. Okay, because 365 days minus the 52 rest days, which we have calculated, minus the 12 statutory holidays which we have, right? So payment of 4,000 Hong Kong dollars for 8 statutory holidays. This is also something which we have to calculate because we have to take into consideration the statutory holidays here. Okay, so since the join date was on 1st of January 2021, right? So that means we have to take the whole statutory holidays, and some of the statutory holidays will not be considered. Basically, if the employee is not given statutory holidays for the first 3 months of service. Okay. So leave taken with less than full wage in 2021 is basically 52 days of rest day without pay and the 4 statutory holidays without pay, failing within the first 3 months of employment, right? So period and wages to be disregarded basically is the 52 days of no pay rest days, 4 days of no pay statutory holidays. So these are the ones which will be disregarded. So note, as the above 56 days are no pay leave, the amount to be excluded will be nothing, right? Because it's all a no pay leave. So calculating of the holiday pay on that basis of 12 months average wage is calculating the average daily wage earned in 2021 will be something which is here, right? One of, yeah, 15, yeah, 154. K, which is 500K as well, Hong Kong dollars minus the zero because there's no wage which is calculated as the regarded wage here, and 365 days minus 52 days of no pay rest days minus 4 days of no pay statutory holidays. So these are considered as the disregarded days. Okay, and what is the total is basically $500. So basically the holiday pay for 1st January 2022 will be $500. So here we are calculating the holiday pay, okay, based on the ADW calculations. So this is about the ADW. Now moving into the next one. Okay, so we will be talking about the IRD regulation. So I'll be not discussing this in detail. Basically, it's the tax payment, and the full form of this is Inland Revenue Department. And the Inland Revenue Ordinance or the ordinance provides for the levying of direct tax under three distinct and separate heads, basically the salary tax, profit tax, and property tax. But when we talk about the payroll, we only see what are the income which is subjected to the tax payment, right? So when we talk about that, it is always the employment income, and a taxable income consists of all cash, including the bonuses and gratitudes. Benefit in kind are largely non-taxable unless they are converted into cash or specifically related to holiday travel or the education of a child, right? In that two scenarios, it will be considered as taxable. And the provision of accommodation by an employer, basically, it creates a taxable benefit, which is also equal to the amount of ranging from 4% to 10% of the employees depending on the type of accommodation. So this is only subjected to tax, okay? The income which is included here. And who is liable? Basically, anyone, any of the income which is derived from Hong Kong office or the Hong Kong employment, or any of the foreigner visiting for the 60 days or more in Hong Kong for any tax years are all subject to the salaries tax. Okay. I'll not be discussing more in details that what are the forms available in our system and what are the exemption forms and other details that will be shown by Sway here. I'm just talking about the legislation, who is liable, and the income which is subject to tax. Okay. And now, the most important part when we talk about the same way how we do the contributions in Singapore, which is CPF, here we have MPF regulations. So, what are the benefits for the members of the workforce when they retire? Okay, so there are two comprising here. One is the mandatory provident fund scheme ordinance, and the other is occupational retirement scheme ordinance. And this is a mandatory, as the name says, and this is actually a voluntary contribution. And since in our system you do see also tick, which is the voluntary contribution done by the employee. But since the MPF is launched, also voluntary contribution is very less, which we have seen, and it is not mostly used in the companies, right? So I'll not be talking more about that, but just to give you a comparison on that, OSO schemes and MPF schemes are both retirement protection scheme set for employees in Hong Kong, but the operations are different. Since the launch of MPF system, MPFA has exempt a number of OSO schemes that meet certain criteria from MPF regulations. Okay, so just to give you a breakdown here, what is the definition of salary? It is subjected to the government governing rules or trust deed. So basically, example is basic salary, right? And for mandatory MPF, it's basically based on the relevant income as defined under the MPFSO. Okay, is the organization where a scheme ordinance. So this is the full form of it, scheme ordinance. There where you have the definition of MPF. What is the amount of contribution to the scheme? So subject to the governing rules or trustee. Example, employees' contribution equal to the 5% of the employee's monthly basic salary. And here, employees 5% of the employee's monthly relevant income. It is maximum 1,500 per month, not required to contribute if the relevant income is less than 7,100 Hong Kong dollars. Okay, so this is the difference. And the employer, 5% of the employee's monthly relevant income, and it is maximum which they contribute is 1,500 Hong Kong dollars per month. Okay, and let's talk about the eligibility of also. It's subject to the governing rule or trusted deeds. Okay, and the retirement age is also subject to the trustees. But for MPF, it's from contribution starts from 18 years to 64 years old. Okay, and the retirement age for MPF is 65 years old. Okay, there are few websites which you can refer for more details if you want to. Later, I'll be sharing the presentation, and then if you want to go into more details about both the scheme, you can refer here. Now, how do we calculate the contribution? Okay, so employees and employers are both required to make mandatory contribution of 5% of the employee's relevant income, which includes the employee's MPF account subject to the minimum and maximum relevant income levels. So just now I just did mention about the 5% contribution based on the minimum and maximum amount. So the levels are 7,100 and 30,000 Hong Kong dollars respectively. And what is the monthly relevant income, which is for less than 7,100 is no contribution is required. For 7,000 to 30,000 for the employees, relevant income is 5%, and more than 30,000, it's always capped to 1,500. The same for the employees' mandatory contribution. Even if it's less than 7,100, they will contribute for the relevant income times for the 5%. Right, and if their monthly income is between 7,100 to 30,000, they will again contribute for 5%. And again, above 30,000, it is capped with 1,500 for the employer's contribution also. Okay, so that's how the calculation of contribution works for both employer and employee in terms of the capping for the minimum and maximum relevant income. Okay, so for the relevant income actually refers to all monetary payments paid or payable by an employer to an employee. It includes any wage, salary, leave pay, fees, commissions, bonuses, gratuities. Then also some allowances which we have, and it also excludes the severance payments or long service payments under the employment ordinance, though we have not yet uh, implemented for the severance payments. Just to know that what does the relevant income belong to, I have added here. Then also for the contribution period, right? When is the employer contribution period? So this is very important. So how much they are contributing, we have discussed. Now, what is the contribution period? So generally, the contribution period refers to the wage period. Okay, the calculation of an employer's contribution for an employee should begin from the first day of the employee's employment. Okay, so from the join date of the employee, the contribution starts into effect. Okay, for that whole month. So how does this look like? So basically, employer's contribution. Let's take this example where the first contribution period is calculated from 5th June to 31st of August. here we are talking about the employer's contribution. So the employment date is on the 5th June. So from 5th June onwards to the June month period, the contribution will take into effect. Okay, and that would be the 5% of the wage which employee has earned for that month. So wage period for which employee contribution is required. So from the 5th of June, it will start contributing for the employer's contribution. But when we talk about employees' contribution period, new employees, right, they enjoy a contribution holiday period, okay, meaning that they are not required to make contribution for the first 30 days of employment, nor do they have to make contribution for any incomplete wage that immediately follows for the 30-day contribution holiday if the employee's wage period is a month or shorter than a month, or a calendar month in which the 30 days of employment falls if the employer wage period is longer than the month. Okay, so I'll give you an example here so that you can better understand the employee's contribution. So, contribution holiday includes the first 30 days of the employment and the first incomplete wage period. The first contribution period is calculated from 1st of August to 31st of August, right? So, when we talk about the first 30 days of employment, since the employee join date was on 5th June, right? So, the whole till 5th July is basically the 30 days of holiday period which they do not have to contribute. Okay, so as I mentioned that 5th June is not a complete month. Okay, so the whole July also they don't need to contribute for. So first incomplete wait period where they will enjoy the contribution holiday. So basically they will be contributing from the 1st of August. Okay, so this is the wage period highlighted in orange for which employees contribution is required. Okay, I think previously we were not showing in our system the contribution made by employees in the month of June and July, but now I think for just for the record purpose we show, but they are not contributing. They only contribute for the month of August. Okay, so that's how the MPF part is. So I think I'm done with all the regulations so far. So I'll hand over to Sway if there is no question.
Yeah, thanks for that, Neha. So let's go to Sui to also see the product demo, and then together we can have the questions towards the end.
Okay. Thank you, Venkat. Thank you, Nia, for sharing those Hong Kong regulation information. It's very insightful. So I will continue to show the demo how those regulation works in our system. Let me share my screen. I will just briefly explain the same thing that Nia shared. This demo session, I will going to share MBF contribution regulation and IRD regulation, and also Hong Kong 713 and ADW regulation, also Hong Kong 418 regulation. So for MBF contribution, just now as Nia mentioned, the contribution rate is like 5% for employer and 5% for employee is, and like Singapore CPF, here is the percent of the contribution rate is very similar. In CPF, there's got different rate for different age group and then different wage. Here, we just need to take note the minimum wage and what is the maximum cap. So minimum wage is like 7,100. If the employee pay is less than 7,100, only employer need to contribute 5%. Let's say employee basic pay is 5,000, then only employer need to contribute 5% for that. And for employee, there is no contribution required. And if the basic pay is like, rather the basic pay is like relevant income is those pay element whichever pay element set up as MBF payable, the total amount is between 7,100 and 30,000. Then the contribution rate will be 5% for employer and another 5% for employee. And if the relevant income is more than 30,000, that the maximum cap is 30,000. So 5% of 30,000 is 1,500 for each employer and employee. So just now, as Neha mentioned, employer contribution need to make step from first day of the employee employment. Let's say the employee join date is 1st January 2023, and then employee contribution step from that month. And for employee, if the employee join to the company, then the employee can enjoy the contribution holiday for first 30 days. The employee only needs to contribute after that. So you can refer those rules and regulation in this web page. So I will show the demo how the calculation works. So this is the account. So there's a few things to take note before we do the pay rent. In order to compute MBF contribution, right, the pay element should be set as an MBF payable. Otherwise, they will not have any MBF contribution. So MBF payable checkbox should be ticked. And another thing is we have to go to MBF information tab to set up those required information. MBF information. Here we have to set up employment type. And this portion, right, employee, MBF static, employer static, 30 days, 60 days, first contribution date, where be auto-populate based on the employee join date. So let me explain a bit here. This is the key point, how MBF contribution is shown in our system. So just now, as I mentioned, MBF, employer MBF static is same as employee join date. So let's say this employee join date is 5th January 2023. So yeah, employer MBF static will start from 5th January 2023. But for employee, the employee can enjoy the contribution holiday for first 30 days. So we have to check the 30 days of employment first. So join date is 5th January. So 30 days of employment is 3rd February 2023. So when we consider employee MBF study, right, is the next month of 30 days of employment. So 30 days of employment is falls on February. So employee MBF study will be in March. So 6 March 2023. So employee MBF contribution will calculate step from March pay rent. But in the pay slip, even after you run the pay rent for March pay rent, you will claim that you didn't see any employer MBF contribution amount and employee MBF contribution amount. By right, it should show because employee MBF static is on March. But we cannot consider like that. We have to check another things, that is first contribution date. So first contribution date is the date that employee need to contribute to MBF board. So first contribution date is considered by 60 days of employment. So 60 days of employment is a step from the join date of the employee. Join date of the employee is 5th January. So 60 days falls on March 5th, March 2023. So first contribution date is the next month of 60 days. So 60 days falls on March. So first contribution date falls on April. So the employee need to declare his MBF contribution amount to MBF board only on 11 April 2023. So after March pay rent, right, the amount the MPF amount should show in the payslip. Both employee and employer amount should show. Just now I mentioned employer MPF contribution start from first day of employment, that is in January pay run. But when you do the pay run, you will not see in the January payslip for employer contribution. In February payslip also, you will not see employer MPF. Employer MPF will only show when the employee MPF show in the month that employee MPF show, means the employer contribution will show only in March pay run, because employee MPF will compute in March pay run. So according to this information, um, employer need to contribute start from January. So this employee visit pay is 10,000. 5% of 10,000 is 500. So in January, the employer contribution amount is 500. And then it's come to February pay run. February pay run also, there's employer no need to contribute anything. Employer need to contribute in February. So 5% of 1,000 is also 500. So January 500, February 500. And then it's come to March pay run. In March pay run, employee need to contribute MPF amount. So in March, 10% of 5% of 10,000 is 500 for employee and another 500 for employer. So after the March period, you will see 1,500 for employer and 500 for employee. So I have already did the parent for this stuff, and I will show how it looks like. So let me share here. January parent for that stuff. So this is the basic pay for this stuff is 10,000. So in January, employer MPF should be calculated. So when 10,000, 5% is 500. But we are not showing the employer MPF in this payslip. And then it's come to February. Maybe I will just show in report is faster. So in January, we did pay rent with 10,000, February 10,000, March 10,000. When you see the contribution for employer, they will have 500 in January and another 500 in February and another 500 in March. So total 1,500. But for employee, the first contribution date is here just now. 6 March 2023. So the employee contribution amount will step C in a March period. So in March, you will see 500 for employee. And then in March period, payslip, you will see both employer and employee contribution amount. Yeah, this is the March period. So you will see 500 for employee and 1,500 for employer. Okay, you can double check with this MPF calculator for HSBC. So I just fill up all the information. The employee dry date is first 5th January 2023. And then this is the breakdown of contribution. In January period, there is employer contribution amount. There is no employee contribution. In February as well, there's got employer contribution, but there is no employee contribution. But in March, there's got both employer and employee contribution, 5% for 5% each. So this is how MPF calculation is done in our system. Yeah, that's all for MPF calculation. But after the parent has been done, we can generate the MPF fine. We can generate the MPF fine and the fine generation. Unlike CPF, in Hong Kong, MPF fine they can upload from each trustee instead of upload directly to the MPF board. In Singapore, the the company can directly upload the CPF file to CPF board. But in Hong Kong, there's a lot of trustee, and the company can register the trustee, and then they can do submission MPF file through the registered trustee. So under MPF submission, you can generate the MPF file. So here, this drop down will show the list of trustee, and currently in JustLogin, we support 4 trustee. We support the file generation for 4 trustee, but you were wondering why we only see these 2 trustee. So in order to see the list of trustee here, you have to set up the trustee information first, enter configuration. So you can go to configuration, and general, you will see MPF trustee list. And then currently this company is set up only 2 trustee information. One is for Manulife and another one is for BOCI. So let's say if your company want to do MPF file generation and want to upload MPF file through like HSBC or another trustee, then you can create another trustee here, trustee information here. You will see the list of trustee that JustLogin support, AIA, Bank of Communication, BOCI, HSBC, Manulife, and Sun Life. So let's say if your company want to do MPF file submission through like AIA, then you can set up the trustee information here. Let's say all this information the company itself should have. When they register with trustee, then they will provide the required information for the company. After you set up here, and then you will see this trustee in this dropdown. So yeah, just now there's got only Manulife and BOCI. Now you can see AIA in the trustee list as well. So let me show you just now. In March, I generate one MPF file for Manulife for March pay rent, because just now I did pay rent for the new staff, MPF test users. So you will see in the file, you will see the staff list, and then with their respective contribution amount. So just now I did the pay rent for January, February, and March for this new staff called MPF test. And there's got another user called WI check. So here you will see for MPF test, you will see 3 lines, and another staff got only 1 record. That means we will show the breakdown of the contribution amount for new staff, but for existing user, we will only show like 1 record for that specific month. So you will see here for MPF test, you will see employer contribution amount is like 500 each for January, February, and March. And in March, you will see employee contribution. But for this existing staff, you will see employer and employee MPF amount here. So for new staff, we will show the breakdown, but for existing staff, we will only show 1 record. So this is all about MPF contribution and how MPF line is generated. Yeah. So let me proceed to another feature called IRD regulation. This is similar to our Singapore IRS submission. In Hong Kong, we call IRD. So in Hong Kong, there's got different type of test form. JustLogin support IR56B, IR56E, IR56F, IR56G, and IR56M. So let me explain what are the difference between those forms. And for IR56B is for declaration of employee income information like our IRAA. So it's reporting employee income. So you can check the specification for this IR56B here in this link. And for IR56B, we support both XML and PDF. So XML file is the file that is used to upload to the online submission, direct submission, and PDF is for employee reference. And for IR56E, that is for new joiner. So if the company has new staff, then they have to declare IR56E. And for IR56E, only PDF format is the in both IRT and JustLogin system, only PDF is available. So you can generate the PDF form for IR56E. And also this is the spec link. Another one is IR56F. IR56F is mainly for resign staff. If the company have resigned staff, then they have to declare the information for resigned staff. This IR56F also have both XML and PDF, similar to IR56B. XML is for submission and PDF is for employee reference. And another thing is IR56G. IR56G is for those who live in country. So the company have to declare for those staff who live this Hong Kong country. This is also available only PDF version. Another one is IR56M. IR56M available for XML and PDF. This is for those person rather than employee. Means IR56M is for those freelancer and those consultant and agent, and the company needs to make payment for those parties. Then they have to generate IR56M and then they have to do submission. So this is for those person, not a company employee. And yeah, this is for IRD. So let me show where they can generate and how they can set up. So all these form can be generated under payroll file generation. So you will see there's got two things: text export and generate IR56 EFG. Those two tabs are for generating of those files. And you will see there's a separate tab for IR56 E, F, G, and M. So for those form, right, you have to set up the required information before generate form for the staff. So before I go into those individual items, let me explain how we can generate IR56B. IR56B can be generated under text export tab. Just now, as I mentioned, IR56B is for the declaration of the employee income. So if the company did appear in our system, or if the company set up some opening balance, then the system should have those required information already. And at that time, the company can generate IR56B file. IR56B can be available for both PDF and XML. Let me show how the file looks like. This is the XML version. If it is XML, then they have a control list as well. Let me show control list first. Control list is the list of the steps that those are included in the XML file. So this is the summary of the stuff. What are their HK IC number? Where is the total income for this specific income, specific financial year? So yeah, this is the summary of the XML file. So, and when we download the XML file, this is the XML format, and this is the format that the company needs to upload in the IRT portal. So this is the IR56B. And another thing is, let me go to IR56 And first, IR 56M is for those freelance agent, consultant, and other things outside company. And then they can set up the information, required information, enter IR 56M employee. So these these are the required information so the company can set up, and then they can generate the file and the text export is for both XML and PDF as well. Similar to IRPVC E, F, and G, they have their separate page to set up. Let's say for UJoin, just now, this is the stuff join in first 5th Jan 2023. So they can set up the required information before generate the form. And similar to F as well, IR56F F is for resign step. They can set up here. And then G is for leaving country. So they can set up the required information here. After that, they can generate the form and generate IR56 E, F, and G. Here they can choose the form and then they can generate. Yeah, it's like similar to other format. There's called PDF and XML file for IR56F, but only PDF available for E and G. Yeah. So yeah, all this information can be available under file generation. This is for IRG. And let me go through another things. That is the HK713 regulation and ADW calculation. Just now, Neha explained about this in details, how the regulation uh, consider. So in JustLogin, these are the statutory item that we support. The first item is holiday pay, annual leave pay, sick leave allowance, maternity allowance, paternity allowance, and last few weeks ago, we introduced another item called workplace injury allowance. And these are how which percent is used for each individual statutory item. For holiday pay, um, by right, it should be the staff is eligible for holiday pay only after 3 months of continuous contract. But in our system, is quite flexible. We have a setup, and then the company can set up accordingly if they want to make payment for holiday pay for the staff for the new join, they can set up like zero months. Or if they want to make payment after 1 month, then they can set up. I will show the UI later. So for holiday pay is 100% of ADW. Annual leave pay also 100% of ADW, but the rest of the statutory item is 80% of ADW. But for maternity allowance, for fax 4 weeks, it will calculate with 80%. Nevertheless, it's more than 80,000 or less than 80,000. It doesn't matter. But for those weeks, start from 11 weeks and 14 weeks, right? If the calculated amount is more than 80,000, right? It will cap at 80,000. So this is how HK713 and ADW calculation has to consider. So let me continue this quickly again. Just now, Neha also mentioned how ADW is calculated. ADW is calculated with this formula, regarded which divided by number of stay in 12 months minus disregarded this. Regarded which is the which in our system, regarded which is whichever pay element, and the regarded which checkbox is tick for that pay element, we consider that amount as a regarded which. So if you take regarded which for BCP, then we will consider the BCP amount as a regarded which. And if you take regarded which for bonus, then we will take the amount into regarded which. So this is a regarded which. We only consider whether the pay element is the regarded which checkbox in pay element is tick or not. So so the company, they have to make sure they tick the regarded which checkbox in order to calculate the ADW calculation accordingly. If they didn't tick, then the ADW calculation will not be happen and it will show as zero. Yeah. So they have to make sure they tick the checkbox. And for the disregarded period is days in which employee is not paying his wage or his full wage. So yeah, those like 80% or 80%, those wage is paid by 80%. Then we, for those leave type, right, we will consider as disregarded periods. So here, this is to take note. For ADW calculation, we only consider for preceding 12 months period. So we consider less 12 months data to calculate this ADW calculation. And let me go through this HK418 together because it's related with HK713. For HK713, right, if the company turns on HK713, then the system will calculate accordingly. But even though the company turns on HK713, all the company inside that company are not continuous contract staff, then the ADW calculation will not be applied. So in order to calculate ADW calculation, right, the staff itself should be continuous contract, and continuous contract static should be applied. So just now, as Neha mentioned, the continuous contract step is this step, that the employee who have been employed continuously by the same employer for 4 weeks or more, with at least 80-hour works in each week is regarded as being employed under a continuous contract. So for this 418, right, is really related with attendance module. In order to know how many hours the staff work in a week, we need to know the actual working hour from attendance module. So Leah will explain more about it when it comes to attendance module, the masterclass. So for us, wherever we receive the eligible step list from attendance module, then we will consider that step as a continuous contract. And then if the employee, in our system, every morning, like 6 a.m. Singapore, the system detect the every staff for those company which is 10 on HK713 and HK418. Then the system will detect who is eligible for continuous contract. Then if the employee is eligible, then system automatically change the employment type to continuous contract and also set the continuous contract static accordingly. So if the employee is meet with this criteria, then system will contact and change the employment type accordingly. So it is relatable. So let me show the UI from here. Under configuration, you will see HK418. This is the setup. So before this HK418 setting is that you have to follow EAO 2007 first. Only after this checkbox is on, you will see 418's automation setting. So this checkbox is this checkbox means the company will follow HK713 policy, and then the system will compute the ADW accordingly. So if the company wants the system to change the employment type automatically, then they can tick the checkbox. So if this checkbox is ticked, then just now, as I mentioned, the system will check every morning for all those companies who enable HK713 and this checkbox, and then will detect which employee is eligible for or this continuous contract, and then it will set the employment type accordingly. So let me show where this information can be seen. So the employment type can be seen under user admin. Here, this is the employment type. So for this staff is not eligible for continuous contract, or maybe this staff is under stay under non-continuous contract. Then the system when will not change this employment type to continuous contract. Then the next day, let's say this employee is eligible for continuous contract, then the system will automatically change to continuous contract, and also the system will set the continuous contract static. So let's say tomorrow is changed to continuous contract, then it will change the date as well. So when the admin come and see here, uh, the admin will see these updated information, and then start from that month onward, this employee will be calculated with HK713 calculation, means his pay will be calculated with ADW calculation. So this is how um, 418 works. Uh, even though the company take the 418 automation, um, the admin state can change back to non-continuous contract if let's say the system already converted to continuous contract, but the admin insist and make this stuff as a non-continuous contract, then the admin state can change here to non-continuous contract. So this is how it's work. And after all these setup has been done, and then this stuff will be calculated with ADW calculation. This is the one place that you can see this employment type and then continuous contract static. Another place is under administration, and then employee information. Let's see, Tommy, enter beauty day. You will see this employment type and continuous contract static here. So this is how 418 works. So once the employment type and continuous contract static has been set, then we can do the pay run with HK713 rules and regulation. So let me back to configuration page first. Once this feature has been enabled, the system will calculate those statutory items based on these percent. For holiday pay, it will be 100%. Annual leave pay also 100%. The rest of the item will be like 80%. Is minimum is 80%, but they can change to like 85% or 90%, but maximum is 100%. So for holiday pay, just now I mentioned by right, it should be like after 30 months of service, then the employee can enjoy holiday pay. But in our system, we enable this configuration. If the company wants to pay holiday pay for those staff after 1 month of service, then they can change this number of months here, and then they can do setup. So this is how statutory item can be set up. And there's got another things to take note. This is another part. Use current month average daily wage. We call it like CDW. So what is the difference between ADW and CDW? So here there's got one setup. Some company, they want to make payment like with higher percent. So there's for two things, two formulas. One is for ADW. ADW calculation is based on the formula that we shared just now, regardless which divided by number of days minus number of days in a year minus disregarded days. This is how ADW calculation. For CDW can be calculated with one of these formula. The first item is monthly salary divided by days in calendar months. Another one is monthly salary divided by working days plus rest day, and another two formula with this fixed figure. So the company choose this checkbox and can choose one of these options as well. So if the company choose this one, right, we will calculate both amount, CDW and ADW amount, and then we will replace here. Here we mentioned ADW, but that can be CDW as well. So if the company choose this checkbox, right, this will be replaced with a higher formula. So let's say if we calculate CDW with this formula and CDW amount is like 100, that when we calculate ADW amount is like of 95 $95. So the higher one is CDW. So CDW 80% here it will be like replaced with CDW. But one thing to take note, CDW calculation can be applied for those statutory with 100%. Means it will not apply to those statutory items like sick leave, maternity, paternity, workplace injury. It will only apply to holiday pay and annual leave pay. But let's say the employee, the company change to 100% here, then CDW can be applied to this sick leave as well. So even though the company choose this one, this CDW calculation will be used for those items with 100% of ADW setup. So this is the things to take note. And after all these status has been done, the leave or this leave can be applied from leave module. Let's say the leave apply in leave module and then they transfer to payroll. Then we can see all those leave record and the process leave item. For this Tommy, I apply one leave for today, and then this is the sick leave allowance. So once I process this record, right, the statutory sick leave statutory will be added to update pay info page of this Tommy. So let me process this one. And then let me go to the update pay info of this stuff. So sick leave allowance has been added in the update pay info with 80% of ADW. This N means the number of days. We will not show number of days here, but the system will calculate from backend and then will show in the payslip. So for this stuff, you only apply 1 day of sick leave. So this N will be replaced with 1 in the pay rent and will show accordingly in the payslip. So 80% of ADW, and then I will save here and do the pay rent for this stuff. Tommy. So here in the parent detail page, you will see the breakdown, how the ADW amount and how the pay amount is computed. For sick leave, the staff apply 1 days. So yeah, this is the 80% of ADW is 10989. So 1 day will be 109.89. Let's say this staff applying 2 days, then this amount will be multiplied with 2. So this is the total amount of the months. In this month, there's got 31 days. So from 31 days, we minus sick leave 1 day. So the basic pay will only calculated for 30 days. So this is the 1 day pay. So 1 day pay multiplied with 30 days, and this is the amount for basic pay. Even though the staff basic pay is 1,000, but after you did the pay run with HK 713 rules, the basic pay will not be 10,000 anymore. It will be calculated based on ADW, and then the basic pay will be 9,677 instead of 10,000 because the sick leave will be calculated with 80% of this 1 day pay. Yeah. So this is how HK 713 calculated, and also you can check in the payslip as well. This payslip format is only applicable to those with continuous contract. For those enter non-continuous contract, and if the company never turn on HK713, then they will see the normal payslip. So just now, Tony. Yeah, this is how the payslip look like. Yeah, and this is how HK713 calculated. One thing to take note, let's say the company subscribe JustLogin in this month, there is no previous pay run date in the system. So but they want to run with HK713, they want to calculate with ADW, but there is no 12 months data, 12 months pay run data. There is no number of leave days for last 12 months period. In that case, the company can do the opening balance setup for the past 12 months, and then they can do the parents accordingly. So there's got two choice, whether they want to redo parent for past months or whether they want to set up the opening balance, average wage opening balance here. So they can set up here and then they can do the parent, like the man that they subscribe JustLogin. So this is the setup page. Yeah, that's it. Just now I forgot to mention this one for HK713, right? Since this is the system automation, the system automatically change the employment type to continuous contract, and then we notify the admin. These are notify the admin for the list of the staff who has been changed to continuous contract on that specific date. So here, this is the report form, email template format. The following qualified employee is now updated to continuous contract on 18 March. This is the list. And then the admin decided this William should be stay and the non-continuous contract. And then the admin stay can go back to like user admin or employee DD page and then can change back to non-continuous contract. Yeah. That's all.
Yeah, thank you, Swei and Neha, for the very insightful presentations and the demo.